Okay, so that worked out well because my talk was sort of inspired a little bit by Connie's talk from last week, because I also am inspired by women in medicine and history. So I'm going to talk about a woman named Dr. Frances Oldham Kelsey, born Frances Oldham in Canada in 1914. She was initially educated in Canada and then moved to the United States to pursue her postgraduate education. Was the first woman to earn a PhD in pharmacology. During her studies, she helped investigate a medical solvent that was used in making liquid medicines that caused 107 deaths. So that interested her in drug safety. During her studies, she also was studying about teratogens, which are drugs that can cause birth defects. After she gets her PhD, she goes on to medical school, earns an MD as well, and then in 1960, she is hired by the FDA. One of her first jobs at the FDA is to review a drug, an application of a drug called Kevidon, from a German company called Chemie Grunenthal. The drug is marketed as a tranquilizer, as a painkiller, and it's particularly good for the treatment of morning sickness in pregnant women. This drug was already approved in 20 countries. It should have been just a no-brainer, just check that off and let it be used here in the United States. But fortunately, Dr. Kelsey looked at the application and said, something doesn't smell right here, I need more information. So she did not just rubber stamp the initial application. At this time, the FDA's policy was that if you didn't actively decline something, that within 60 days it automatically got approved. So Dr. Kelsey had to ask for more information. Every 60 days, postpone this approval again and again and again. She asked for more scientific data. She had that feeling some things were getting held back. She asked for animal studies. It turns out that they had done some animal studies that were not particularly encouraging, but they didn't pass that on to the United States. So now the company is mad because she's not approving this. So they went to her supervisors and said, this lady's in the way. You got to get us to, come on, let's just get this drug approved. And fortunately, her superiors at the FDA actually supported her and said, no, we're not going to approve this automatically. And by November of 1961, some data came out of Europe that was very not reassuring. It turns out that Kevidon is also known by its generic name, which is thalidomide. And it was found out that it causes all sorts of birth defects, including limb defects, missing ears, malformed internal organs. In Europe, where it had been used pretty commonly, there were over 10,000 affected children born. In the U.S., it was never approved because of Dr. Kelsey. However, they were allowed to give out drug samples, and there were at least 17 identified babies born here in the United States just because of drug samples. So after this, she was recognized as a hero for the health, and notably, she was very respectful and shared credit every time someone said she was a hero. She said, yeah, but I had assistants who were working with me. The supervisor at the FDA also really supported me. Her work led to strengthened regulations on drugs, thank goodness. In 1962, JFK gave her the Presidential Medal of Freedom for Distinguished Federal Civilian Service. She ended up having a 45-year career at the FDA, didn't retire till she was 90, died back in Canada at the age of 101. So I think the lesson from that is that, perseverance is important. It would have been very easy for her to just kind of let things slide, but she didn't. She, had the courage of her convictions, and it did an awful lot of good to the world. And then why does this tie back into Connie? In one additional way, just an interesting addendum. Thalidomide did actually eventually become used in the United States. It still is, under very strict regulations so that pregnant women won't be exposed to it. but it is useful in multiple myeloma, and it is also used sometimes in treatment of leprosy. So going back to her speech, yeah. All right. Well, thank you all for that.